Hey there. Today we're going to deal with an aspect of the Venezuela crisis that doesn't get anywhere near enough attention. The country has been in serious trouble for a number of years now. The Venezuelan people opted for a model of government that just doesn't make sense in the new context of lower world oil prices. So far, the reaction in the United States has mostly been to gloat and mock Venezuela for the failures of its socialist model. But in recent months, the situation has changed. This is now becoming a region-wide crisis. Venezuela is literally starving, and it's estimated that more than 2.3 million people have fled the country, potentially destabilizing all of its neighbors. The conversation in the United States is beginning to change. The Warhawks are circling.
We really have to question how long can this be sustainable. At some point, Maduro is going to have to be dealt with. I have long said that it's time for Maduro to go, but you can look at all of these people, you can look at the thousands of people that escape Venezuela every day and realize they're begging for help. They're begging for a change. They're begging for Maduro to go, and they need help.
In that interview, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley stopped short of saying what she means, but noted Republican Warhawk Marco Rubio made this explicit in a Spanish-language interview just a couple weeks back. This statement is very carefully worded as well, but it makes it clear that Rubio now views Venezuela as a threat to the United States. And if it's a threat, then armed force can be used. Intervention is now very much on the table. Trump is reportedly open to this idea as well, and last week it was revealed that his officials have already been meeting with rebel officers of the Venezuelan military. Any kind of intervention in Venezuela is a horrifyingly stupid idea. We're still in the early days. The Warhawks are just floating the idea to see how it plays. We need to shut down this kind of talk, and we need to shut it down now. If the United States invaded Venezuela, it would cost us tens of billions of dollars, and it would be guaranteed to absolutely destroy the U.S.'s already abysmal reputation in Latin America. What's more, it would take Chavez and Maduro, the guys who ran the country into the ground, and turn them into heroes, validating absolutely everything they've ever said about the threat from U.S. imperialists. We're already seeing that dynamic working. What the U.S. Warhawks are beginning to argue is that there's just no other way to deal with this terrible, terrible situation. That interpretation relies on a very incomplete picture of what's been happening to Venezuela this year. If you read or watch the U.S. mass media, it's all about what the government is or isn't doing. But if you read the financial or legal press, you get a very different story. Now, I'm not going to weigh in on the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela or the legacy of Hugo Chavez. My experience of Middle East politics tells me that what the New York Times and Fox News tells us about a country is rarely the whole truth. There's a lot more going on in Venezuela than just socialism, and I can't bring myself to completely condemn Chavez, a guy who seems to have been legitimately loved by many of his people. Maduro is a lot easier to condemn. I may do a series on Venezuela at some point, but I'd have to read a whole bunch of books first. I have skimmed a few defenses of Chavez and Maduro, though, and I've got to say they're pretty unconvincing. Most of them rely on this idea that the United States organized a vast conspiracy aimed directly at Venezuela to keep oil prices down. This is a bit silly. For one thing, the United States is now the world's largest producer of oil, so we don't want oil prices to be much lower than they are today. For another, the idea that the world's billions of poor people, from China to India and everywhere in between, are obligated to keep paying peak oil prices so Venezuela can engage in socialist experiments is deeply, deeply wrong. But the United States is definitely doing something to Venezuela right now that also strikes me as being pretty screwed up. I think we need to separate the what happened to Venezuela questions into two separate questions. The first question is, why is Venezuela failing? The second is, why is there a catastrophe in Venezuela right now? This question is worth asking because the crisis has gotten dramatically worse over the past year. From inflation to refugee flows to oil production, 2018 has been a whole lot worse than all the years before it. My answer to the first question would be yes. Chavez and Maduro are almost certainly responsible for Venezuela's long-term failure. The country would not be in the situation it is today if it wasn't for their government's policies. But when it comes to the second question, why is Venezuela having a crisis this year? The answer is nowhere near as straightforward. Oil prices have recovered a bit from their 2016 lows. It's not enough to fund a 2008-style spending spree, but Venezuelans should not be starving. The root of the right now crisis is the collapse of PDVSA, the Venezuelan state oil company. Venezuelan oil production has been plummeting in 2018. This is not because of socialism or PDVSA mismanagement. This is something different that should be much easier to fix. To be clear, much of what I've read does lead me to believe that Chavez and Maduro did ruin PDVSA. They killed the golden goose. The Venezuelan state oil company used to be very well run, but recent leadership politicized it and reduced its independence and diverted funds that were necessary for maintenance and expansion to other uses. Apparently, Venezuela's highly skilled oil workers now all work in Mexico. The long-term fall in Venezuelan oil production is the responsibility of the Venezuelan government. But that's not what caused the calamitous drop in oil production in 2018. And it's that calamitous drop in oil production in 2018 that created this region-wide Venezuela crisis. 2018 isn't a nightmare because of Venezuela's government. It's a nightmare because of a few court cases outside of Venezuela. In April of 2018, ConocoPhillips, an oil company, won an arbitration related to Venezuela's nationalization of its projects in 2007. In May, ConocoPhillips seized PDVSA terminals and inventories in Curaçao, with the permission of the courts there. Curaçao is an important hub for Venezuela's oil export industry. Venezuela's oil production has been falling for a couple years now, but this action sent it off a cliff. Just last month, another court in the U.S. state of Delaware ruled that a Canadian company can go after Citgo, the PDVSA-owned company that distributes its products in the United States. This could make things much, much worse. Both of these court cases are the result of nationalizations carried out by the Venezuelan government over a decade ago. It's clear to me that these legal actions are proceeding now because Venezuela is perceived to be weak and easy to take advantage of. Now, I'm no fan of nationalizing industries. I'm a big neoliberal after all. But I think it's important to emphasize what a colossal double standard we're looking at here. Almost every petrostate in the world, including many, many U.S. allies, has nationalized the assets of a foreign oil company at one point or another. Some of these countries may have done a better job compensating these foreign companies than Venezuela, but not all of them did. It's these legal actions that are the direct reason that Venezuela is starving in 2018, but nobody's talking about this outside the financial pages. ConocoPhillips and the other companies are succeeding. Venezuela is scraping together what little money it has to pay the companies off in a desperate attempt to get the oil flowing again. Who knows? Maybe these companies have a right to this money. I'm no energy lawyer, but I'm pretty sure it's deeply messed up that they are getting this money now. It's creating a humanitarian crisis and a political crisis across an entire continent. This may not be a crime, but it's definitely an atrocity. Washington, D.C.'s Warhawks are currently plotting to make this situation infinitely worse. Like I said, I'm no energy lawyer, but there has got to be a better solution to this problem than a multi-billion-dollar invasion. Nobody is looking for that solution. As we watch this disaster unfold, let's be clear about why the U.S. military-industrial complex is about to do whatever it's about to do. It's not because Venezuelans are starving or because Venezuela's neighbors are being destabilized. It's because a few oil and mining interests want to get paid. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and if you want a free essay on a completely different topic, I suggest you click on the link here to sign up for my email list.